I'm Kate.
I'm Elle.
We are down to fate, and we're continuing our tandem read this week with Empire of Storms chapters 24 through 28 and Tower of Dawn chapters 22 through 24.
We're also concluding KF Bring It On month later this week with Warrior Chronicles.
Which I'm excited about because I haven't read that. And my
Yeah.
favorite thing in the world, like before we started doing this podcast, you just explaining the entire plot of a book or a movie or a show or something is my favorite thing. Like if I had like a
thank
little
you.
treat and you can just like for hours sit down and just detail the entire plot of something. I mean, sometimes it was like with or without our consent, but
Yeah.
we enjoyed it nonetheless.
If I decide that I like something, I'm very pushy. Like
You will read it out loud. Like we would be, you just follow us around reading out loud.
I very specifically remember taking Twilight on spring break in college, and my boyfriend broke up with me right before I was supposed to go visit him.
That.
And so my roommate, after that forcefully went and sat on her bed and read her Twilight.
You're like, no, this is deep. This is meaningful.
One, I didn't want to be alone. I was having a breakup. And two, I was like, we're going to have to get through this.
Well, was it New Moon? Because that is the perfect, I'm feeling sad.
No, it was the very beginning of all of it. It was Twilight. But I do the same thing to my sister. And it's like, if I think you're not quite getting how important this is, that's when I'm like, let me give you the whole premise here. And let me just give you a few fun things. And that's probably how our book reviews came about, was like us like, well, why about this one? What about this one?
Well, that's why I want to read things. Like it's great when I see book talks of people just like aesthetic photos of new books that are popular.
Yeah.
And it's like, just says like 5-star read or whatever. But I need someone to be like, this is what happens in this book. This is why I liked it. Like that's why I want to start reading a book.
Well, and respectfully,
with respect,
people have different tastes and opinions. And like, there's one girl, I can't think of her name. Not that I would say it anyway, but like for a minute, I was like appreciating her recommendations.
I know
like,
who you're talking about.
She'd be like, if you read this, you like this.
Yeah.
Guess what? I did not. There's a couple things that I was like, whoa.
I know who you're talking about and which book you're talking about.
There's two of them.
Well, the problem is I think that book was meant for me.
Yeah.
It's like more my aesthetic.
That's the thing is you like, as we go through this, we start to realize where our tastes differ, not in a bad way, but it's like, oh, okay. So most things, like now that I understand the distinction, I like most recommendations, but there's certain things that are like too dark. I'm like, you know what? I don't think that's
like,
for me.
I don't know if you would have liked Nocticadia by Carrie Lake.
Potentially no, just because.
Not just because of the worms, but it is very dark.
I didn't like her book, Anathema.
Yeah.
So, and that's, people have loved it and raved about it. But like, that's the whole reason I do love when we do the book reviews, because if you read a jacket cover, some of these tropes overlap and you're like, why would this one be good versus another one?
Oh,
what is unique about this series that draws me in?
Like the tropification of the genre. Yeah. I like knowing what I'm getting into. Like I think for marketing purposes, it makes sense. But they're mislabeling some of these tropes.
Yeah.
Like I'm reading On Wings of Blood and I really like it. I did finally get to, in the audiobook, the male narrator's voice, and I was like, finally. But it was very short and it was a flashback, and then it immediately went back to her and I was like, damn it.
At least he's there. But
it was marketed as enemies to lovers, and it was really, I don't know if you would say strangers to lovers or dislike to lovers, but they weren't enemies. I think enemies to lovers is being overused.
Right. Enemies to lovers is really like, you're a witch hunter and I'm a witch.
Yeah.
Like, we are on opposing sides.
Yeah. It's like heartless hunter, witch collector, opposite sides of a war, like the Bridge Kingdom or the Hurricane Wars. Like, but I am enjoying On Wings of Blood, but they're strangers. They just didn't know each other. Now they're getting to know each other. And he did just claim her for the first time in public, like don't touch what's mine. And she's like, it's only because he sees me as his property. And I'm like, girl,
whatever, call me yours again.
Well, and he also, yeah, exactly. But he also, there's like a little, it's not a puppy because it has the face of an owl or something. I just try to like, sometimes I hear things and I'm like, you know what? It's a puppy.
Aside from like I'm not Shih Tzu, I cannot visualize what that would look like with a smooshed face.
But she finds it, and like, I think his sister is the one who was fucking with it and like feeding from it and then just left it to die.
Oh no.
And so she finds it and they need to get it help. And so she needs the help of the healers of his house. And she's like, he's never going to help me. But then in his inner dialogue, you learn that he, when he was a kid, had one of these little puppy things. And so he like has this sweet side, obviously, that we haven't seen yet.
He's just
But
having to
it's
front to be a strong man.
yes, but all of the interactions so far are, like, the banter.
Okay.
So, yeah, I just wouldn't call it enemies to lovers, but I do love, like, a possessive fictional man.
Yeah.
I
Fictionally,
just,
otherwise
like,
calm down.
while I'm updating my hater portfolio, we have gotten comments before being like, "Oh, you love men in these books, but you don't like real possessive men." And it's like, I think that the problem is they're confusing possessive with controlling.
Yeah.
Like, the fictional men in the books that we read, they're not trying to control the women. It's
Some of them
very
are.
different. It is, but it's not like a controlling, like, how real life men try to control.
But also when it's fantasy and it's so unlike anything in my real life, it doesn't affect me the same as somebody
Right.
trying to tell me who I can be friends with or
Yes.
having like not trusting my judgment about
Mhm.
me like hanging out with like there's like a line that
Well,
like in reality is very different.
it is fantasy, and
Yeah.
all the characteristics that we love in men are, like, turned up to 11 in the books. Like, they're all 7 feet tall. That's not gonna happen. They have, like, purple eyes, beautiful velvet wrapped steel links or whatever they call it. Like, none of this is real. I've been trying to psychoanalyze the appeal of, like, the possessive fictional man, and I
Mhm.
think that we've all at some point felt unwanted or, like, undesirable.
Mhm.
So, of course, we love someone claiming us and, like, being proud to be with us, because a lot of times that's what they want everyone to know, that you are theirs. And I personally have abandonment issues, which is why I love fated mates. But it's just like you were saying, it's a safe space to kind of live out some of these fantasies. Like, it's also just fucking hot.
Yeah, well, somebody also wrote these characters. So, like, although in the book they might be overly like possessive of me, there's a line they don't cross because
Mhm.
it's a book.
Yeah.
Reality, a lot of times you can't have both. You know, that's one thing if you're like, yeah, I'm proud, that's my girl. That is not the same thing as the guys that are very much like, no, she's mine. You can't talk to her. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. There's just,
It doesn't mean we want it IRL, because
yeah.
I'm also like, you're not a 7 feet tall alien with blue skin, but I'm also not a 19-year-old virgin
Yeah.
hunting for her family. Like, there are no fae or vampires or shifters, unfortunately.
Hunting for her family. I have no skills. It's not me.
No, I can't forage. I don't know what I would
I
have done. I'm
can't
not a
build
hunter or a
anything.
gatherer.
I can't clean anything, I can't
No.
cook, like, I have no skills.
I don't even know why I started ranting about that. I guess that our updates are really just what is annoying me,
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
what they're becoming. But yeah, like what I'm reading, On Wings of Blood, listening to the audiobook, finally got some and it's duet narrators is what
Yeah.
I like, the duet audiobooks. So yeah, I think it comes out next week. It comes out May 27th, I think, if that's Tuesday,
Okay.
and it's only on Audible too.
Nice.
So, I never know how to transition.
Well, I'm not even done talking about what
Oh
you're talking
yeah,
about.
I was
I
like,
have
so
thoughts
that's
too.
my update, and that's all we're gonna
It's
talk about.
okay, these are all about Kate's updates, not Elle's. No, I'm just kidding. But, like, you did just bring up an important topic
I
that
did.
well, just people commenting, like, you know, what somebody might like in a fictional person versus in, like,
Mhm.
real life. There's also a moment like, we're here discussing books. We're discussing fantasies.
Mhm.
We're not talking about our day-to-day life right now. Like, yeah, in my day-to-day life, I am very independent, and I wanna be able to share my time with somebody. I don't want somebody, like, thinking they own my time.
Yeah.
But, like, that's reality. We're doing fantasy because I don't wanna talk about my
Well, I
reality.
think that's why I don't
It's
like regular
escape.
romance books.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with the regular because I read a bunch of those before some of the more fun fantasy series came out, and they can be very fun, but then sometimes they hit too close to home, and I'm like,
Yeah, I
"Ugh."
need to completely disassociate from my life, and if there's, like, fae and vampires, that is a completely different world
Yeah,
to me.
it's not gonna overlap with my
No.
reality in any way. Yeah, I might have to read that series. It sounds really
Yeah,
interesting.
I can't really figure out, like, I'm still having trouble picturing things because I started with the audiobook,
Yeah.
and so I didn't get to, like, form these characters in my mind before I heard them, so I'm still picturing them a little more juvenile than they
Okay.
probably like, I can't get a read of how old everyone is.
Went to like a university setting?
Yeah, I guess it's a university. It's only like a
okay.
school. They haven't said what kind of school. But
Okay.
they're like, she's a first year. So, I mean, she's not a fucking kindergartner.
Well, like, I have so many books that I want to read because, like, I've been reading KF Brain, The Warrior Chronicles, which we mentioned a minute ago, because we're going to be recommending it for the end of our KF Brain It On month. But also, she gave us an arc, her book Obsidian, that I'm trying to read, and then I've got another one from Stasia Stark. Like, I've got things lined up, and I love it, but I feel like, where's the time going? When am I going to get to this? I also just got my nails done, and so I'm trying to focus.
Huge update.
But I like literally right before I came in
top
here.
Ropes.
You guys, you can't see them, but
yeah, our 5 people on YouTube.
Yeah, people on YouTube.
Look at these nails.
They're the most beautiful mermaid nails. Like I literally took this girl
Mermaid.
I took her a picture from like Pinterest, and I was like, I know these are a picture of fake nails.
God, Pinterest.
But I'm obsessed with them, and she made it happen. Like, I mean, God, they're beautiful.
You know,
they're
those memes where someone's like smoking, it's like, I haven't heard that name in a while. That's how I feel about Pinterest.
I know. You don't do Pinterest anymore, but like,
still have it?
Haha, yes, me.
You know what? SJM had a Pinterest back in the day that was like really big foreshadowing for ACOTAR.
Oh, man.
Like all of the aesthetics and everything. And that's why a lot of people think that it's going to be Elaine and Azrael.
Something spring. Oh, okay.
Because it's very Hades and Persephone.
Oh.
Yeah, which I love those retellings.
Yeah. Okay.
We did go through another week of not finding anything out about ACOTAR.
You guys, we're going to have to not hold our breath. I don't feel like that's going to happen for a long time.
She was spotted. She was spotted in Miami. I think it was at a Barnes & Noble. Someone got a picture with her. And like, it's not fair to be like, what are you doing out here? Why aren't you riding? Like, that is an insane thought to have about someone else.
She's not riding. I feel like there's something else going on.
Yeah.
Like, I think that there's...
To have not acknowledged the anniversary is very weird to me.
Yeah, well, I feel like there's probably some kind of contract in place where she has to have books written by a certain time, and like, you know, like...
Or maybe she's... Because she is such a huge, like, money maker for the publishing company. Maybe she doesn't have rules. Maybe it's like...
That's
George
nice.
R.R. Martin, and because he is also, so they have pushed back that Game of Thrones spinoff to 2026, and he's putting out another show, and everyone's like, God, George, can you please focus? But it is like he had a childhood friend who was also an author pass away, and he is developing his books because he wants that guy to have more attention, because he's like, he's the best fantasy writer I ever knew.
That is very
then I was like,
sweet as a friend.
Yeah.
Okay.
That is very sweet. It's gonna, I don't know if it's anime. No, that's not it. It's adult animation is what they're making the show. So
interesting.
I was like, okay. I worry about your health. I
just said interesting, guys. I've got a whole list of synonyms.
Oh yeah, we looked up synonyms.
I'm prepared for future when I remember. Not to say that. Well, all that to be said, my updates are that I have been reading a lot and I got my nails done.
Will you get your nails done where I get my nails done? I went the night before you, and I was sitting there, and there was this little tiny girl next to me. And she was like, why are you getting your nails done? And I was like, I don't know. I just like getting my nails done. And I was like, why are you getting your nails done? And she goes, I'm going to Paris tomorrow. And I was like, you little bitch.
I mean, wow, to be so blessed.
Did you ask me just so I would ask you? So then I was like, oh, wow.
This child is like, I'm getting my nails done for Paris. And I'm like, well, I'm getting mine done just because
it makes me feel good. Should I have to explain it to you?
Yeah. Actually, it's funny. I sat down. This is the first time I've seen this nail girl. Her name is Mia. For anybody in Nashville, go see Mia at Chow Nails. But
is that how you say it?
I don't know.
I've been saying, I don't
Watch me have said it wrong. I think it's Vietnamese. So
Chow.
I don't know.
What did you say?
I said chow.
Okay, chow makes sense.
But I don't know if that's how you actually pronounce it. I've never heard it said.
CHAO.
Yeah. All that to be said, it's the first time I've seen her. And she's like, oh, are you going somewhere? I was like, no, it's just me. I just love mermaids.
Special. They're like textured and everything.
Oh my God, you guys. I'm obsessed. She drew like little mermaid scales, and there's little pearls, and one of them looks like a little shell, and then there's glitter, and there's just all the things.
You're going to pass out. Are you okay?
I'm so excited about my damn nails. Okay.
I think that's all of our
updates. I know. Well, we'll start rambling again, and we should get the episode started.
And there's no good way to transition.
I know.
But I do want to say we do occasionally talk about ACOTAR and Crescent City. Like, if you're new. I never know. Like, are new people listening? I don't know. If you are, welcome. If you're not, like, welcome back. Welcome home.
I like that we do that. We reference it in order to bring it all together for the mass verse.
Mhm.
The last time that we spoke as a group, we saw Alien Aelin, Adian.
Alien.
I was laughing. Aelin and Adian. The last time we saw Aelin, Adian, and Lysandra, Aelin was summoned to the port city of Ilium by the spirit of her ancestor Brannon.
He didn't answer her questions about Maeve, not because he was refusing, but he genuinely doesn't know much about the Fae Queen. Like, no one seems to know anything about her, and no one seems to be concerned.
Without getting sidetracked again, how is nobody like, this is suspicious? Like,
I would be like, okay, this person's been alive for a really long time. How?
well, I think is it even Brannon that says that like she lives longer than any expected Fae
She
lifetime. You're
was
like,
old
okay,
when Brannon was a child. That was thousands of years ago.
they aren't supposed to live that long.
And yeah, no one's questioning.
They're long lived. They're not necessarily immortal.
Is it long
So
lived or long lived?
you know what? I don't need this right now. It's
I
too
don't
soon.
know.
We'll just leave that there. But all that to be said, like nobody thinks it's odd. There's no follow-up questions. And maybe she did something that like affected the way people view
Yeah.
her. He also didn't give much info on this lock that Aelin is supposed to find in the stone marshes, just that when bound with the word keys, it can permanently close the word gate.
And once we get to the whole lock thing, I have questions about that too.
Me
Because I'm
too.
like, what lock?
Well, without
Anyway.
giving any other spoilers, yeah.
But finding the lock is not top priority right now, especially after Erewhon confronted Aelin using the body of the head overseer in Dovier, which would have been horrifying
Yeah.
on its own, but he had a wordstone heart, and Erewhon was threatening to do the same to Rowan and Dorian. So you're like, does he know where they are? Is he going to catch up with them? Our buzzard and baby girl might be in trouble.
No.
That's top priority.
Now I keep seeing Alien.
Alien.
Aelin, Adian.
This is not Ice Planet Barbarians yet. But I am gonna do a whole like I bet we could do a summer of Ice Planet Barbarians.
That's good. Now it's gonna have to be added to my TBR because
Oh
we
wait,
talk
you
about
could
it so
do
much.
fun nails, like blue nails for Ice Planet Barbarians. That would be very pretty.
You know what? Blue, like different colors, blue and textures, and like
Yes.
ice, like going from like ice blue to deep blue, like a glacier.
Oh, that's perfect.
I'm having a whole artistic moment.
I love
Okay.
us.
Notes for future. Aelin, Adian, and Lysandra leave Ilium on the Windsinger for what should be an easy trip down the coast of the continent, but they do have to sail near Rifthold, which is still held by the witches.
But they don't have a choice. There's no ways rerouting. Like there's that net that Erewhon has stretched across the continent. And we saw that when Hussar showed Irene the map. And we have to get to Skulls Bay ASAP. Like something could happen to Buzzard and Baby Girl.
Yeah.
But also Skulls Bay just so happens to be on the way to the stone marshes of Eelway.
Perfect. This works out. And there's a certain pirate lord with a magical map inked on his hand.
One that reveals enemies, storms, hidden treasures, and things that do not wish to be found.
Aelin and Adian talk on the deck of the ship.
Aelin was already reluctant to bring people in on plans before Erewhon's big display and all of his threats. Like, she was already afraid of them ending up in a collar or a ring, but now it's like there's that added, they could be turned into an experiment of like what she just saw with the overseer from Endovier.
Ooh, horrifically.
I think that Aelin's secretive behavior is mostly fear-based, like, yeah, like scared of what could happen to the people around her. But she was also raised by Arabin, whose whole thing was trust no one. And then you add in the betrayals of Arabin himself, Ansel, Archer, Kaol, if you count the whole threat on Nehemia's life, like keeping that a secret. And then Nehemia herself and Elena, like that is a lot of betrayals in a short, like, she's 19 years old. So I would probably have trust issues too.
Well, there's also that Adian even readily admits, like, I probably wouldn't have chosen Ilium. I wouldn't have given this a chance. There's certain things that Adian is very practical. He's a strategist. He wouldn't have given consideration to. So she probably partly doesn't want to tell anybody the plan in case it doesn't work out. And she doesn't have to hear about like, being a failure in some form.
The only person in theory you're putting in danger if you don't tell anyone about your plan is yourself. Like, look what happened when she and Sam had a plan. And the problem here is she can trust Adian. Like, if it is that she's been betrayed so much and she doesn't trust anyone, Adian is a ride or die, and he's a general. Like, you're saying There are some things he probably wouldn't wanna do because it's crazy. Like, some of her plans are insane and a lot could happen, especially to her. But he does have a lot of experience.
Exactly. So, like, having that experience, he's probably like, "You know what? Our time is best spent elsewhere,"
Yeah.
which he's not wrong for saying that, but in the end, Aylin's not really asking, "Hey, should I do this?" She wants to do it, so she's going to do it. So the main difference in, like, sharing your plans and not sharing is that we're gonna do this regardless, so I'm just not gonna tell you, so I don't have to hear you say no.
It's like she doesn't want opposition, which is kind of problematic.
Yeah, that's not really, like, showing respect to me for,
Mhm.
like, the value you're giving me in your mind and your heart and your court. You're not really showing a lot of respect by listening to anything I have to say.
I feel like I'm holding a lot more space for Aiden in this reread. Like, we're going to get to some attitude from him, and I'm gonna be
Yeah.
annoyed, and I just have to remember that he's had so much trauma.
You know, I am giving a lot more space for Adian and Kale. Like, as we do this
Yeah,
reread, I'm understanding more of their sides better because he has had a lot of experience and, like you were saying, the trauma. And I feel like he's not being given enough credit or like
right.
room for that.
Well, he's not gon like, she's not asking for his opinion about the plan, but she's also not giving him all the information. Like, he probably would have been like, "We don't need to do this in Ilium with the temple and everything." But she also didn't tell him that the little folk had left her a message from Brannon
Yeah.
and that she was going there for, like, another reason. So without all the information, you can't really make a decision.
Yeah.
'Cause it's just not really fair.
Well, she's also not telling him why they're going to Skulls Bay. Like he's
Exactly.
still kind of like, why are we going this direction? What is this going to do for us? And she's not sharing that with him. She's not giving him a chance. I mean, he has actually seen battles, and
Mhm.
Aelin might be a killer. She's never actually been in, like, battle
It's
or
very
war.
different, like a one-on-one assassin versus being in literal war.
Yeah.
And Adian feels bad because he knew that Aelin was in Endovier, but hearing it and, like, knowing that versus seeing the Overseer and, like, hearing what he had to say about what was done to her is very different.
I'm sure Adian felt horrible having to just know that she was there, but there's still a distance
Mhm.
from it versus having to actually see something or, like, it's being brought much closer to home? It's
Mhm.
hitting much closer to home now that he had to see the overseer, and it really is hurting Adian because he was close to the salt mines with the Bane when she was there. He was literally right over the border for 3 months.
Aelin cuts him off saying, "We are not gonna linger in the past," and then she immediately starts asking about his past.
I know, like, I guess since we've opened this door, like, let me ask this while I
'Cause
can.
she's been wondering for, I think, since that conversation with Darrow.
Yeah. Well, because specifically, Adian fought at Theralis when he was 14.
It's just everyone in this series has PTSD, like, every bond is a trauma bond, but I think understanding Adian's trauma will help, like, us understand some of his future attitude
Mhm.
or, like, his reaction to certain things that happen, like, that we'll discuss later on. It is heavily implied that he was sexually abused, and I love Aelin. She's a bit of a Mary Sue,
Yeah.
where bad things happen to her, but it never crosses the line. It is not very realistic to believe that someone was in a slave labor camp and was never abused in that way.
I mean,
But because she's our main character and that would be I don't wanna have to read that, and I don't want that to have happened to her or
yeah.
anyone. It's just not very realistic.
Well, I guess we're supposed to have assumed that Arabin paid people to keep her from that
Mhm.
final whatever, like, he's trying to break her, but not full I don't know. But it's still with the things that she saw happen to people all around her, it she's very fortunate
She
that
is.
it didn't happen to her.
Like, the what happened to her was terrible, but what happened to Lysander and Adian is on a different level.
And it's nobody's business,
You
so I
can't compare trauma. I don't wanna say that,
yeah.
like, Aelin, who isn't a real person, hasn't hasn't been through anything, but you know what I'm saying? It's just different.
Right, it is different in certain situations, though, when the main character horrific things happen all around them, and they are lucky to get to escape some
Mhm.
of it. And Adian, he doesn't owe Aelin any explanation for what could have happened to him, But I think we also see, like, as you mention it, little things that he understands about Lysandra, like, not that he wouldn't have understood before, but maybe potentially from having had something similar happen to him, he can
Right.
understand moments when she's standoffish or, like, wants to separate herself from some of what's happening.
With Lysandra, but then also so next week we'll talk about when they all meet up in Skulls Bay and everyone's like, "I don't know what your problem is with Dorian," and Adian's like, "You guys don't know this guy like I did." And that's he's right, like, there were that 10 years that no one else was seeing Dorian fucking around and not, like, caring about anything. He was just like a little party boy, which it like, whatever, he was Prince, and what was he supposed to do? But it would be like you would have that trauma of seeing him possessed and, like, torturing people as
Torturing you,
Vogue, torturing
potentially?
you,
Yeah.
but then also those 10 years of like, you're struggling every day to try to keep up this Wolf of the North persona, and, like, you're smuggling things for the Bane, and then you just see Dorian being this little pretty party boy. It would
Well,
be hard to get over that perception of him and be like, "Oh,
yeah.
yeah, okay, he's, like, part of this
It's
rebellion."
literally like seeing somebody you knew in high school that was a total asshole, and, like, I'm sure
Yes.
they've grown up, but you're like, "I
I still
still
see them.
remember you from
Yeah.
here." Poor Aiden. This has turned into, like, a Justice for Aiden
I
rant.
just as for Aiden. I don't even like men. What are we doing? We're
Ugh.
turning into sympathizers.
I mean, it just Aiden has really been through it, so I appreciate that Aelin, because you don't wanna talk about something from somebody else's trauma unless they're ready to discuss it, but she's taking an opportunity to make sure that she hears what happened to him, to give him a safe space to discuss it if he wants to, and he mentions that it was Darrow that tried to shield Aiden when he's on the battlefield, like, to keep him out of the worst of it.
Well, I think that shows a lot about Darrow.
Yeah.
And I can't remember if we talked about that battle yet, but it's where the last battle was fought before Alderland took over. Most of Terrason's forces did not walk away. It was a literal bloodbath. Like they said that the streams ran red for days afterward. Adian is 14 seeing all of this. And then afterwards, I don't remember when we'll talk about it. There was like a prison or something that he was taken to. And
Yeah.
then you were saying that it sounds like it was almost a Hunger Games situation.
Yeah, but I forgot why I was saying that now.
The Finnick.
Oh, so when in the books, whenever Adian like, he kind of hinted at potentially being sexually abused. I don't know when that was or, like, in what time frame, so I don't know if it's, like, he was imprisoned at a very young age and had to suffer through torture of all different varieties, or if, like, in Hunger Games with Finnick was it Odair? I said the wrong last name when we were talking offline, but Finnick was, like, a champion in the Hunger Games, and he kinda got passed around the elite, whether he wanted to or not, in, like,
Mhm.
what do they call those? The first ring or, like, the whatever one of the like, the main city, the capital, and I don't know if because Adian says that he fucked his way around Rifthold and, like, he was given all kinds of, like, gold and
Yeah, you're like, how much of that was consensual and how much of that did he just convince himself?
he was okay with, like, did
Yeah.
he do it because he had to as the Wolf of the North to, like, continue playing this long game,
Mhm.
but,
It's really sad.
I mean,
The
like
whole situation for everyone, like, everyone has gone through so much,
yeah,
except for
Adian's
Kale.
real
I'm just kidding.
trauma.
Kale went through stuff. His dad threw him out. Whose dad didn't throw him out? But that's okay, we'll get to it.
Jeez. All of that to be said, Adian's, like, really intense trauma of all different varieties started at 14 on that battlefield, and Aelin admits that she doesn't blame Darrow, like, this was I think Adian was not speaking up for Darrow, but trying to give Aelin
Context.
yeah, an understanding of who Darrow is, and she says, like, "I don't really blame Darrow for blocking me from Terrasen."
Like, she's still gonna fight it.
Yeah.
But she does understand, and, like, early on in the tandem read, we discussed Darrow and his motivations, so we don't have to go over that again. But it's understandable. Like, everything he's doing and saying, you understand even if he's being a dick about it. And it's very mature of Aelin to see that. Like, she's just grown so much. I can't imagine even 2 years ago, Selena being told no, like, "No, you can't have your crown," or even, like, at the beginning of Throne of Glass, that Selena or Aelin being told no. Like, I
Yeah.
think that she's growing so much.
Yeah.
I do
Selena?
wish that she would CC Aiden on some emails because I just think he wants to be in the loop, which speaking of,
Okay.
I got several messages and apparently everyone's been walking around squirting without me and now I feel very left out. So I have another thing to have a complex about. All of y'all are squirting without me.
I love that this is the moment you're talking about this because we referenced squirting.
Aiden has been left out and now I feel left out. It's just like, I mean,
you live and you learn things sometimes. You didn't know. You didn't know what you didn't know.
I'll practice.
Okay.
I'll keep everyone updated on my practice.
Oh, that's okay. In chapter 25, it's Manon's POV. So just a quick refresh on why she's waking up in Oakwald Forest. Manon attacked her grandmother, the Blackbeak matron, to give the 13 an opening to escape Morath after Astrid was sentenced to death.
Before the old bitch swiped her rusty nails, like clean your nails.
Ugh.
Swiped them across Manon's stomach, she revealed Manon's father was a Kraken prince who never stopped looking for her.
I mean, I was gagged. I didn't know that there could be male witches.
I still don't totally understand the male witch part of it, but we'll learn more when we learn more about the Krakens.
Also, the high bitch killed her own daughter when she found out.
And that Kraken spy her grandmother made her kill an heir of fire was Manon's half-sister, meaning Manon is a kinslayer, not just for that. What was her name? Rhiannon? Rhiannon.
I don't know if it's Rhiannon or Rhiannon.
Well, it's not just her. She's been killing Kraken witches for 100 years. So she's like times a million kinslayer. But also, the grandmother out loud admitted she killed her own daughter. How is she not a kinslayer? But also, all the witches kill witches. How do they all not have the witch killing smell about them?
Yeah, we talked about that when Aelin had that distinct smell from killing Baba Yellowlegs, and they were like, witch slayer. I'm like, I don't understand how the matron doesn't smell like that this whole time. It's crazy.
I think also something that's been bothering me is, the waste were cursed by the last Kraken queen. You're the matron. You have a Kraken queen as your granddaughter and heir. Is it weird that she never tried to use Manon to Uno reverse the curse? Like, what was the plan? I know that they would have needed to make peace with the Krakens, which was never going to happen. I just don't really understand what the witches' plans were.
I think we've said that multiple times for Manon, but like just going back to it, it's been 500 years and the Iron Teeth have learned like 0% humility.
No.
They're not about to apologize. They're not about, because it's like her grandmother just disregarded the entire thing from the Krakens. She's like, whatever. How do you think that Erewhon is going to break this curse? How is he going to suddenly like, the Kraken curse has to do with peace, and you're going to pick the darkest, most evil person and he's going to fix this somehow? Like,
why didn't they just bond with the wyverns? Because that was really the only thing the Erewhon could offer them. They can't fly in the broom. Well, actually, if they had just waited for Aelin and co to break the spell on magic and everything, but
they get the brooms back.
Yeah, would get their brooms back. I don't know if they're riding brooms anymore because they had the wyverns, but all they really had to gain, it was the wyverns. And so once that was done, why didn't they fuck off? Why would you continue to fight in this war?
They seem to, I'm sure they're like bloodthirsty, so they probably just enjoy that.
But to bow down to a man, y'all are witches.
They seem to really be trusting in whatever power they think that Erewhon has. Like, oh, it can break a curse from this world. Like, please. They can travel all worlds. It would make more sense
if they were like, I was like, oh my God, the matron's been fucking Erewhon this whole time. I would be like, now I get it.
Yeah, I don't.
We don't even know her name. She's just the matron.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
It's funny because a matron is supposed to be a witch in her prime. And I'm like, matron feels old to me, but like, okay.
Her nails are rusty.
I mean, like, I don't know if that's good or bad because it could either be rusty or it could be like covered in poison. So I guess rusty. After the matron sliced Manon's stomach with those jagged, rusty ass nails, Manon threw herself over a balcony and onto a Braxos. Also convenient timing.
That was some good timing.
After they outran the yellow legs that were sent after them, Manon gets the word Oakwald out before she loses consciousness.
She wakes still strapped in the saddle, and poor Braxos is so worried. He's like, Mom! His like head is craned back.
Oh, he's so cute trying to help her. He tried to get her near water. She says that she's fine. She's not. But at least she isn't dead.
There's a lot to process with what her grandmother revealed. She did just essentially defect from the Iron Teeth, which was her whole personality. Her and Chaol's stories are so parallel.
Yeah.
I haven't really thought about that before this reread, but yeah, she just like threw away everything she knew and everything she was. She doesn't know where the 13 are. She doesn't know what they're going to think about her being half Kraken, but all she can really think about is water. Like, it's a lot of these stories, these storylines, they have so many things they have to do, but they need one step at a time. Like, Ayla needs to get to Skulls Bay. Manon needs to get to water. Chaol needs to get his legs working. It's like they have to take it one step at a time.
I mean, good for them for figuring that out, though, because I would be in a full panic. Like, where do we start? Where do we start? And they're like, water. God.
Water.
You point out that bit about Manon being very similar to Chaol.
Should they fuck?
With Abraxos' help, she slides to the ground and passes out again. She wakes for a second time at twilight.
Edward scoops her up and says, "Hold on, spider monkey." Ever since we went to the vampire convention, I've been kind of like a hoa headspace. And I've been like very deep in Twilight lore.
Okay.
I don't know if you ever read Midnight Sun.
I feel like the first half the book before she finished it was leaked online.
Yes,
and I read it then, but I've never
she
finished
knew,
it.
you know what's crazy? She knew who leaked it because she had several different versions.
Ooh.
And I think they traced it back to who leaked it. Anyway, Charlie, so Bella's father, Charlie, could shield.
Okay.
There were times that Edward just thought he was stupid and didn't have any thoughts. And then he started listening and he was like, I can actually hear it and it's like muffled. And so Charlie was a shield. And then Bella's mother, her inner voice, I think it's Renee, her inner voice was super loud. So like she was projecting. And that's why Bella can project a shield.
It's funny that he thought that Charlie was dumb because now I forgot where we heard this statistic, but like what 50 to 70% of people have zero inner dialogue. Like
That's
maybe he's just got no thoughts
Who's
behind
walking around? I am 24/7. There's like even when I'm talking right now, I'm having a different conversation in my head.
Yeah.
That's why I never make any sense.
I know. I get distracted by my own thoughts. I'm like, wait, was I going to say this or that? But also like in my own inner dialogue monologue, I'm like explaining myself to myself.
Yeah.
I'll do something stupid and I'm like explaining why. I'm like, who am I talking to?
Who am I talking to?
Nobody cares.
Well, more Twilight lore.
Okay.
They are literal statues.
Yeah.
Like if their hair gets pulled out or their hair gets cut, you're fucked. It's never growing back.
Wow.
Think about that. Think about if like something happened to your hair, you would just be like, it's just gone.
Did they say that at some point?
Yeah. Because there's like
I don't remember that. I'm like,
well,
I mean, I know they're like marble, but like
story.
Wow.
There's a side story. I can't remember if it's about one of the newly turned that like left the big fight that they like let live.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember if it was her story or someone else's. And she talks about like a bad haircut or like no, something a chunk of her hair gets ripped out.
Uh-huh.
And they're just like, oh well, because you can grow back like a finger or something with the vampire venom.
Okay.
But you can't with like hair or eyelashes.
Oh, I cannot be stuck with the same hairstyle for like eternity.
And you're not always in control of when you get turned. That's like when I think about if I died in some of the outfits and I have to be a ghost.
Yeah.
In like my big period panties.
Oh no.
No. Speaking of panties, I just got to the part in the reread where Lorcan washes a lead panty. That's like the most horrifying part of this entire series.
You do not need to be
no. My crusty panties, no.
This took a real like full left turn. Manon staggers.
I don't know what we're talking about, to be honest.
It's like one word triggers a like stream of consciousness, and then it's like a whole other side tangent. Manon staggers to a stream and drinks a few handfuls of water. Then she hears a twig snap and turns to see a stunning young woman with glacier blue eyes and a full red mouth made for the bedroom.
And you're like, where is this going?
Yeah, the way she's noticing these details.
But the bloodhound is there to take Manon back to her master, Erewhon. And we hear bloodhound a lot in Crescent City. Like Danica was a bloodhound, like her father, Mordock. And we know the shifters in Crescent City are descended from the Fae and Throne of Glass, or that's like pretty heavily implied. And there's more that we'll discuss when Aelin has a run-in with this specific bitch later. I just think it's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
It's also not interesting. It is interesting, but it is a little weird that
thought-provoking.
the bloodhound drops. So she drops her glamour, and you're like, oh, jump scare. And she says, I shall enjoy this, I think. That's exactly what Kaltain, word for word, what Kaltain said before blowing up Morath.
Oh my
Like,
gosh.
this isn't Kaltain. She wouldn't have survived that. But I don't know if that speaks to, like, the horrible shit that was done to them, that they're, like, excited to kill things.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just thought that was weird.
The way that they've been twisted by this darkness in some form. The woman's form, as you just mentioned, ripples, and a creature birthed in darkness stands before Manon. And like, as we describe this, I literally just, it's almost like I'm visualizing Voldemort with massive nostrils.
Yes.
Because the body and face are vaguely human.
Mm-hmm.
The nostrils are huge.
Oh, his feet being out is the worst part.
Yeah.
when he's walking
there in his little
robe.
cloak.
Put some shoes on.
The difference is that the eyes are big and lidless versus being like snake-like.
Mm-hmm.
The teeth are black stumps. Like,
gross.
Ew.
Well, I feel sad for whoever this used to be.
Like, don't ruin this for me. But also, the tongue is so nasty.
Ooh,
it's like
nasty.
thick, nasty. It's thick and red. I'm just like, whoa. Also, she has wings on her back.
That's kind of fun.
Yeah, you got that.
Manon slides between two trees and literally, she's like holding her stomach in her stomach. Ugh. She runs to Abraxos, who grips her in his claws and launches into the air. The bloodhound leaps up right into Abraxos's poison-coated tail. Very cool scene. Am I crazy, or did we think that Abraxos's tail was like mutilated and the spikes were replaced with iron?
No, you're not, because we talked about this previously, but as a bait beast, I could have sworn he didn't, like, the poison was somehow removed so that he wouldn't harm the other.
And that the spikes were sawed off or something.
I think he still had some, but a lot of them were damaged from being the bait beast, and they had to replace them with iron. But I think he still had some of his spikes, just not all of them.
Iron with, I guess, what they do with their nails? Has she coated it in poison, maybe?
I guess. Or like maybe the wyverns naturally made poison and it had just been cleaned off of his spikes before he was put into a pen with other beasts.
Because I thought he didn't have
it. Wait, what?
Perchance we're overthinking.
Well, like, just because I think we literally talked about it before, how he didn't have poison. But I guess maybe he does now. Like, now,
you know what? I had forgotten about the bloodhound until, like, there are things that I will reread this series so many times, then I'm like, wait a minute. I totally forgot about this.
Well, because the bloodhound is a very specific, I won't go so far as to call her a character, but like the bloodhound is very specific, but it's also very similar to the other creatures we encounter. So I'd forgotten about the bloodhound too. The bloodhound screeches that she'll find Manon, who tells Abraxos to fly to the coast, somewhere safe before she loses consciousness again.
I'd be like, we're specifically on the coast.
Like, I'll just head that direction.
We have all of these threads from all these different characters, like with Rowan and Dorian, with Fenris and Gavriel, and we have Manon and Abraxos, the 13 somewhere else, Aelin, Aideen, and Lysandra. But you're starting to see how they're all going to weave together just with like where everyone is going right now. Like Manon is flying to the coast. And speaking of the coast,
we know people in the coast.
Yeah, we know people there. Over in Skulls Bay, Rolf has been ignoring Rowan and Dorian for 2 weeks. So to fill his time, Dorian has joined Rowan's boot camp, which starts with practicing his magic in a clearing in the morning and running the miles there and back, miles, plural, there and back. Then he has a choice of eating before or after Rowan's workout. And Dorian is like, how the fuck did Aelin live, laugh, love in these conditions?
Aelin, to be honest, besides running, would sit there and do nothing for a lot of this. So like, let's calm down.
She pissed herself at least twice.
Yeah, half the time she'd be like, I can't do anything. There's no magic. I can't do anything. Eventually, though, I think Aelin, like, I'm not an athletic girly. I feel like if you're athletic, some of this might be easier. Like, I feel me and Dorian are closer than we think. Like, I'd be like, do we have to
Dorian was like at least practicing with the guards, but he wasn't out there.
He wasn't running with Kael and Aelin. Yeah, so like Dorian's training and getting fit, but he's doing like, what do they joke about with the gym workouts?
Like glamour muscles.
Yeah, like he gets really hot and fit, but he can't run.
Yeah,
that's me, Dorian. I'll do those workouts. There are some days that Fenris and Gavriel will also be there with them, like giving unsolicited pointers and feedback, which I'm like, I just want to see like a little clip of that, you
I
know?
know, I love those little, like, small moments, but I
Yeah.
also love there are days that Dorian is feeling overwhelmed with not just his PTSD, but all this pressure and anxiety, like, he has so much pressure on him, and on those days, Rowan tells Gabriel and Fenris to fuck off because 'cause they're just like he's very sensitive to him because they've gone through similar not like very similar experiences, but they both have trauma, and I think that Rowan can recognize that in Dorian, and he's like, "Back off and give him some space."
He's reading his moods.
And then in the afternoons, they check the forums, aka Rolf's 7 captains left on the island, and they're just like looking around for hot goss, like, "Hey guys,
I just
what have y'all heard?"
I do love that they've like figured out this little routine. Like they
Maybe
hang
that's
out
part of
every
the
day.
reason Adian gets a little butthurt is he's like, "That's I mean, that's not actually his dad. His dad will be there," but he's like, "That's my friend."
I know. Oh, because like this little routine is everything that Adian wishes he could do. Because Adian would love
Oh my
to
god,
like
this is
really
Adian's
train.
dream day.
I think, yeah, half of the Adian's attitude is probably just
He's like, "And we
jealousy.
get to eat in the hotel room together afterwards?"
Then we're looking for the goss in town. Like, man. Reports say that most of Rifthold is in ruin, its nobility and merchants fleeing to country homes, leaving the poor to fend for
Which
themselves.
is not surprising after seeing, like what was it, the orchestra when it was, like, all the blood money that had bought all the jewels they were
Yeah.
wearing.
I mean, also the wealthy are not like about to fight and like take on witches. So they're just like, all right,
That's
well,
true, what would they do actually? But they could take people with them, I guess,
I
or,
mean, they
like, I
could
don't know.
find them somewhere to stay in a country home
Yeah.
out of the way, but the witches control the city gates and docks, and ships from the ferry and gap bring strange soldiers and beasts.
It's becoming more and more obvious just how long Erewhon has been planning all of this. Like, these are stages and waves of things that have been in motion, like been planned, being put into
Yeah,
motion.
some of this has been planned for years, considering things that are being created. Poor Dorian, he's embarrassed. He didn't know anything about
They're
any
like, "Do
of
you not
this.
know about Otterland's fleets, where they are?" And he's like, I think I missed that day."
I mean, I was a part of the slave talks, but outside of that, I was being raised for the other aspects of being a
Yeah.
king, not the actual like warring portion. So he didn't know anything about Otterland's fleet in the Gulf of Oro or the forces that were hidden in Melisandre's port.
Thanks to the Queen of Millicent, who is one of the few royals who survived the King of Otterland. And I mean, like, she's a queen, like a lowercase q queen, because she's allowed to air quote rule, but she bent the knee. Like, it's really Otterland. He just let her stay. And we learned in Air of Fire that someone from there went to Terrasen to discuss an alliance, but they were actually sent to spy on Aelin. So, like, she's been in the king's or now the duke's or Erewhon's pocket for a very long time.
Yeah.
It's also in Assassin's Blade where that bitch Leifer Bardingale, she was from there. The one that, like, with Arabin's help, tricked Selena into killing a guy who was helping escape slaves.
Oh,
Remember that whole
yeah.
storyline?
Yes. That
That's where
just
she
shows
was
you
from,
how
and she was
corrupt they
friends with the
are.
queen, remember?
Ooh. Ooh, I forgot her name until you said it, and I was like, "Oh,
Leifer. That
yeah.
just sounds like someone that you would
Lafer.
be watching a sorority TikTok of, like, "Oh, these are my necklaces and these are my bracelets," and it'd be like her name's Leifer.
Lafer." And it's also where the master tinkerers are from, like the one who made Aelin and Sam's suits.
But all that to be said, Erewhon has been planning this right under everyone's dicks while keeping his council and lords and Dorian distracted with policy and trade and slaves.
If they're lucky, Maeve and Erewhon's armadas will collide, but they haven't heard any news of the Fae Queen and her plans, or any news of Aelin.
And that's the real reason Rowan is roaming the streets for gossip. But tired of waiting on Rolf, Dorian writes himself a letter and has Rowan mail it to himself. And then he goes full method reading it, like just overreacting to it so that Rolf's spies can see it. It gets back to Rolf, and now Dorian, Rowan, Fenris, and Gavriel have been summoned to his office.
I love that Rowan is right beside him, like huffing and puffing, like,
They're
yeah,
both
I'm
like,
pissed off.
"Oh my god,
I
can you
mean,
believe it?"
of all the people, the two of you like putting the work in
I
is
know.
adorable. I can't imagine Kale playing into this, you know?
Adian's like, "Oh, there was also improv class?
You guys are doing a
Cool."
lot of bonding without me. Also, Dorian is trying out the shielding that Dad has been teaching him.
Rolf unlocks his office door, and sitting at the desk with her feet propped up is Aelin Galathinius.
I love these scenes. Like, I mean,
I love these
this is
scenes.
part of why we redo this series anyway, because like almost every book has multiple scenes that you're like, I love this, but like
Yes.
I get so excited because I'm like, here it goes. Only Rolf does not know that Aelin is Selena.
And the last time Rolf saw Selena, he said that if he ever saw her in Skulls Bay again, she was fucked. Like, your life will be forfeit or whatever.
I love that he's all like pissy about it, but I'm like,
I like this interaction. I think it's so funny because Rolf is so mad.
he's like, what are you doing here? But also, like, I made you sign something. I'm gonna have to check up on you to make sure you stuck to your word.
I don't
Like,
even know
come on.
how she was expecting to enforce something as like a 17-year-old, but
It's not like there was magic. Like, you know, in other series, like they strike a deal and the
yeah,
magic
that it's
holds
like a
them to it. Like,
bargain.
what else are you gonna do? Everyone just rolls with it though. Dorian's like, oh, hey, Selena.
To Rowan, she says, I don't know you, but I'd like to. But he is off the market. And she's like, wow, she must be fucking beautiful and smart to make you so faithful. And they have like this whole thing, and everyone's watching, like, okay.
I love that both Fenris and Gabrielle are like snorting, like, okay, in the background.
Rowan says she's the most wonderful person who ever existed, which makes me kick my feet and giggle. But everyone in the room, yeah, it's just like, what is happening?
Poor Rolf is the only one feeding into this. Everybody else is like, you guys are over the top. But also, like, especially Rolf, who's like, what are you doing here?
Yeah, like, full stop. What are you doing here?
God.
And he looks to Dorian like, can you do something? She was your champion. But Dorian says, one does not deal with Selena Sardathian, one survives her.
Selena's play is that even with Erbin's fortune and the sale of the guild, she's looking to profit from the upcoming war, which is totally off brand for the 16-year-old who freed slaves.
None of this really makes sense to me because I don't know why she goes through this little act and then immediately reveals who she is. Like, is she just fucking with him?
I guess she's waiting to see if he's changed.
Like,
Or
I
like,
love classic Selena, but it's like, okay, for 10 minutes, you had him believing that you were just going to try to profit off of this war. Why?
well, profiting off of a war doesn't have to mean slaves, though. So I also don't quite see how it's so different. Like, you know, like if it was like, hey, I'm willing to do the slave trade now to make money. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
bad. That's not what she said, though, because he's very much like, where's that girl? Like, that girl didn't say she didn't want to make money. She just
Yeah.
said she wasn't going to do slavery.
But it's classic Selena, like where she's hiding the emeralds up her sleeves and like somehow under her tongue.
Impressive.
And Rolf is about to fucking lose it. Dorian's trying not to look at Rowan's boner. It's just like chaos.
There's a lot happening in this room. Aelin asks if Rolf has kept his promises to 1, stay out of the slave trade, and 2, provide sanctuary for escaped slaves.
Which it's not like he put up an ad on Craigslist advertising Skulls Bay as a sanctuary, but he's also not turning people away. I'm just surprised that he did all of this because a 16-year-old made him sign a piece of paper. A 16-year-old who then left for years. Like, there's no way she couldn't have enforced what she made him sign. But I guess it more just shows like he deep down didn't want to be in that business. I don't think, and this was like his out.
I mean, because really,
or am I giving him too much credit?
Well, I don't, because no, it doesn't make the most sense because Selena clearly had to follow whatever Erbin told her to do, and Erbin was clearly okay with the slave trade.
Mm-hmm.
He even like punished her for like ruining this. So it feels like Rolf could easily have just gone on with it and been like, fuck that, whatever.
It has to be that he really didn't want to be in it in the first place.
He was maybe okay with like the excuse, I can't do this. I've signed a contract. There's something hanging over my head.
Because, I mean, he's a pirate.
Yeah.
I guess they're honorable, but
they have their own code.
Yeah.
Maybe. It did cost him, though. He not only lost that income, but Selena destroyed ships and much of the city itself and then ran up quite the bar tab.
Which Rolf has been using for target practice. He has it like up in his office with several knives in it. He looks to the Fae males and he says, if you want my help in this war, kill her.
She suggests that Rolf take a seat and then introduces the incomparable, the beautiful, the absolutely and all-around flawless Queen of Terrasen.
Aelin Galathinius enters the room, and Aelin are looking at each other like, oh my god, you're gorgeous. And then Lysandra shifts, and the man was too stunned to speak. Really, the males were too stunned to speak because Fenris and Gabrielle's eyes are wide because shapeshifters were hunted to near extinction before magic vanished. Like, they're rare, but they were also very feared.
If they've even like encountered them before, like they may have noticed that she smelled different when she walked in, but couldn't put their finger on it because very rare. Speaking of Gabriel, Aelin internally is like, fuck, I need to warn Adian.
Is it weird that she didn't put it together in Mistward when she saw Gabriel? Or I guess she hadn't seen Adian
Yeah, she knew
in
Adian
so
as
long at that point,
she
so
knew him
she
as a
didn't know.
child.
It also has to be such a mind fuck being back in this office. Like, I don't think she talks about it, but like being back in Skulls Bay without Sam, this is where they first realized that they meant more to each other. Like, it's
Yeah.
also the first time she really collabed on a plan. I feel like it would be very triggering being back here and like being back in this
It
office.
was her last, like, big movement with Sam. Like, obviously, they were back together in Rifthold later,
Mhm.
but, like, this is a big turning point for her, and this is
It
also,
is.
like, her and Sam deciding that, like, they were gonna really band together.
Yeah.
This was a huge turning point for their relationship. I just had another thought when you were saying, like, her maybe not recognizing Adian looking like Gavriel. I mean, Kael and Dorian, I mean, they're men, but they didn't notice that Aelin, who they've seen Adian, like, within
That's the
6
one of
months,
the biggest plot
they didn't
holes.
even notice that
Okay.
Aelin and Adian are, like, twins.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't know. We can give her something because Adian was a child. Like, okay, we'll let that slide for now. Rolf directs them to a table in his office. It's far grander than the piece of shit office where she and Sam met him
So
previously.
you're like, you've been doing well without the slave trade
Yeah, you
business.
could clearly have done other things. And Aelin makes it all of one step before Rowan is at her side, filling her in on the situation with Fenris and
Who
Gavriel.
have agreed to help on the condition that it'll lead them to Lorcan, who Maeve sent them to kill.
Also, most of Otterland's fleet is in the Gulf of Oro thanks to Melisande, and Maeve's armada sails for Eelway.
None of that is great news, but Aelin is just so happy to see Rowan. Like they are literally like heart eye emojis looking at each other. They don't give a fuck about anybody else in this room.
Hey.
What I find hard to believe though is Fenris and Gabriel couldn't keep their sense or magic hidden. They had like a literal magic cloaking spell from Maeve, but Aelin somehow kept Rowan from detecting her all day. You know, she's like, it was so hard covering it up to where he wouldn't know I was here, but it's worth it seeing the look on his face. And I'm like,
Ooh,
how
yeah.
you're telling me these warriors who had special magic from Maeve couldn't hide from Rowan?
Shouldn't have he, like, at least felt her magic?
Yeah.
Like,
You know,
could
even Dorian would have felt her magic.
hmm.
Hmm.
You're right, questions. And they finally remember that other people are in the room. You know, if this had been Carefree and this was like a Cage of Crimson, they
Oh,
would have just
he would have
like
started fucking her on
they would have
the
just mated
desk.
right there and everybody got to
Yeah.
watch. Like, I don't hate that for who's in the room. Like, okay, if we have to. Well, anyway, when they finally remember that other people are in the room, Rolf warns her that her silver tongue and arrogance aren't enough this time.
So she sticks out a tongue of silver fire, and that earns an LOL from Fenris. And like she wants, it's like all of them want to like Fenris, but they're also like, I don't know.
I mean, Fenris is like the main person who's funny, but also gets under their skin. So you're like, I don't know what to do with that. They trade jabs, or as Aelin calls it, a dance, the second movement of which starts when she hands Rolf the sealed letter of recommendation from Murtaugh.
Is this a fucking job interview? A sealed recommendation? But the backstory of Rolf and Murtaugh, when Murtaugh was trying to pinpoint the sources of the spell blocking magic, he spent time in Skulls Bay. And that's how he knew about the Vogue presence on the islands. And he like, I think that Ren wanted to go, and it might have been right after he was injured.
Yeah. Also, I don't know if Murtaugh would have known Rolf before all of this, like both of them being much older.
But he clearly trusts and respects him. Rolf
Yeah.
does.
Well, and at that point, Ren was the heir, but Murtaugh had already been working with the nobility long before Terrasen fell.
Yeah.
So maybe he had more clout because of that.
And I guess it's not just he respects Murtaugh, but he speaks for Terrasen.
Yeah, he still
And
counts as one of the lords.
yeah, in honestly a more official capacity than Aelin can right now.
Yeah. Aelin pulls up her PowerPoint. I have the gold and the ability to raise you from a common criminal to respectable businessman. Not just that, but I can make you pirate king.
It's not just Murtaugh who co-signs, Dorian does as well, promising that if they win the war, Terrasen and Otterlin will recognize him as the undisputed heavyweight pirate of the world, the king of all the pirates. Things don't look great right now, but because I mean, yeah, Dorian and Aelin are king and queen, but like technically also they're not.
Yeah.
They don't have they don't have their crowns, but it does hold a lot of weight. Like this is Otterlin and Terrasen being behind you potentially. But just like them together is such a huge statement that just imagine if they got married.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, that would be such a huge statement. Like, Rowan could be consort. Let's not take Aideen off the table. Rolf is about to be in the mix. He's throwing himself out there. Like, let's just explore all of our possibilities.
I'm hearing it should be a reverse harem, multiple mates.
Yes.
Multiple areas.
Well, not just like combining Otterlin and Terrasen, but like the fire and ice. So it's like poetic.
It is.
It's like why we want Dany and Jon Snow to be together. It's like that fire and ice.
Rolf calls Aelin and Dorian young idealists and dreamers, to which Aelin responds, the world will be saved and remade by the dreamers.
They're the OG Court of Dreams.
Rolf still isn't convinced.
In his defense, yes, he's talking to legitimate king and queen, but neither have crowns. But also, Aelin is 19 and Dorian is in his 20s. He says he's not interested unless you want to make me the king of Terrace. And like, again, let's not take this off the table too quickly. I think that let's look into it.
He's also being petty. He can't help it.
Yeah, he's also just fucking with Rowan because he clearly has seen the way they're looking at each other.
Well, like, he's pissed, but he's outmatched in this room, so he's got to have something.
He is so outmatched in this room.
Rolf asks Dorian what news he received, which he knows about because of his spies, and they're like, no news, we're just really good actors.
And that's Rolf's 13th reason. He's like, get the fuck out of my office. I'm done.
As they're leaving, Gavriel demands to know, where is my son?
I love how protective Aelin is over Aedion, and like, I understand that this should not be a surprise meeting for Aedion. Like, he should know that it's coming and have a choice, like warn him. But she's a little harsh with Gavriel. Like, he's not a deadbeat dad who's been avoiding his son his whole life. He didn't know Aedion exists. She's like, we don't know if he's going to call you dad. Like, you don't even get to call him son. And it's like, he didn't know that he existed.
It's like they want to punish him for having sworn a blood oath to Maeve. But that was done who knows how long ago, before he
hundreds of
even
years ago
thought Aedion could exist. This is a position he is already in, and he would have done his best to take care of them, although I'm sure Maeve would have made him talk about it. So I can understand why Aedion was kept from him. I hate what happened to Aedion's mother, but it's not like Gavriel's a terrible person.
Right.
Like, all of this is just being thrown in his face, which is just
but like, you don't get the privilege of calling him son thing kind of pisses me off.
Well, yeah, like the privilege, of course. Like, you know,
Gavriel's like, I just want to fucking meet my son.
Yeah, they're acting like he didn't love Aedion or couldn't love Aedion or would have used him in some way. I can understand why Aedion is upset. It makes
Aedion has the right to be upset. She's just being a little harsh.
I know. It just makes me sad for Gavriel. Lysandra shifts and runs or flies or slithers to get Aedion away. Then Aelin, Rowan, and Dorian meet them at the Ocean Rose.
Aelin's like, this is nice. Like, this is not the kind of place you usually stay.
Hey.
There's also subtle reminders of past plot points, like looking at the decor, Aelin wonders, maybe the owner is from the Red Desert. So you're like, oh yeah, the Red Desert, the Silent Assassins, Ansel. It's the same with Tower of Dawn, because she keeps bringing up Irene's past in Inish and like her meeting with this stranger that we know as Aelin. SJM kind of had to work in a lot for all the people who hadn't read Assassin's Blade.
Yeah.
So that it made sense. Because like, if you hadn't read Assassin's Blade, I don't know, I might not have read it my first read through.
Yeah.
There are some things that you're like, wait a minute, I feel like there's more here. But she worked it in enough to where you have some understanding.
I didn't read Assassin's Blade until we did this read.
That's crazy.
But even then, well, because I wanted to get through the series. Like, I was like frothing at the mouth. Like, I was like, I got to get through this. But also, even when we read Assassin's Blade, that was several books ago. So I can understand SJM giving some callbacks.
No, it's
just
good
like,
for
hey,
reminders.
reminder. Aelin also picks up on the unexpected but very sweet friendship that's formed between Rowan and Dorian. Rowan and Dorian catch everyone up on the witch's attack on Rifthold, answering questions from Aedion so he can feed info to the Bane.
And they're thinking, man, it would be so cool if Manon could turn on her people, and I have great news for y'all. But Dorian hesitates when the idea of the witches turning on and destroying each other comes up. Like, maybe he doesn't want all of the witches to die.
Speaking of, what do the witches want? Like, why ally with Erewhon?
We've been asking that this entire time.
I know, like, make it make sense. what else did Baba Yellowlegs visit the glass castle to talk about?
It's crazy that it was in the works that far back, you
Yeah.
know? Does everyone in this moment know about the curse on the waist, or is that just like something the witches know? It's hard to keep track of who knows what in this
It
series.
was cursed so long ago, and the witches themselves are lore for a lot of people, like, do they actually exist? You know, so
Yeah.
I would assume they don't know of the curse, like, they just don't they haven't been informed enough about what is going on with the witches, period. They decide to take any witches they find alive so they can ask these questions, and then Aelin fills them in on her combo with Brannon and Ilium.
Like Kale and Antika, the pressure starts to weigh down on Aelin. Erewhon had decades to plan. He really could have had centuries if he could do it while he slept. And she has a few months and like super vague instructions from Ghost
But also like Chaol,
and like Manon.
all she can focus on is what is right in front of her. Rolf, his People's Alliance, and the map that's inked on his hands.
Now, who's ready to get awkward in Tower of Dawn?
Oh, it's definitely me.
You love cringing.
No.
Last week we talked about Kale and Irene's very steamy, not spicy, but like also breaking HIPAA, their display following a feast at the palace, and Kale's guilt leading to him finally asking Nezrin about her family, or just like a general check-in with the person who dropped everything to travel here with you.
Nezrin fell asleep in Chaol's bed, which is exactly where Irene finds him the next morning.
Well, remember when Kale told her barging in at dawn was not going to be a problem?
Yeah.
She's running on no sleep. She's worried about what everyone, including Caution, who saw her last night with Kale, like what everyone is thinking. She was on opiates. Like she's probably not feeling great. And her hand is cramped because she had a threesome with a couple of no-shows. It's like if your vibrator dies and you have to go acoustic, your hand's gonna cramp up. And then she opens the door to rumpled sheets and Chaol's naked chest.
Look, I understand why.
She's just like,
she's very flustered because, like, I get it. If I'm starting to build something with somebody and they told me it's okay, and then this questionable moment happens, but also Nezrin is fully clothed.
yes.
Like, fully clothed.
But also, it's like Nezrin has a lot more of a right to be there. Like,
yeah.
I don't want Nezrin to feel out of place in her own space. That's so unfair.
Well, Irene had a moment the night before, like, she's embarrassed that people saw her look lusty at Chaol, but I think she also recognizes that she could be stepping on Nezrin's toes. But when she asked about it previously, Chaol was like, nah, you can come in at any time.
Yeah,
so,
but you really need to ask a woman. Like, if you ask
yeah.
a man, they're always separate. Like, a married man's always separated. Ask the wife,
Well,
you know?
yeah, definitely like, oh, no, we're not exclusive. We've been together for 3 years. Like, what's happening? It's
Are
just,
we dating the same guy? Check that out.
I can understand definitely having that feeling of, I don't even know if it's betrayal or just like, I misunderstood this. I'm embarrassed. But again, Nezrin's fully clothed. So, like, I
Didn't
mean,
we
it's
know
not
someone
great.
on that Are We Dating the Same Guy?
Oh, yeah. Some of the guys I've been out with are on there. I actually commented on one of them. I was like, this guy is the worst. And it's fun. It's not funny because, like, somebody was definitely like trying too hard and told him about the post. But he
Oh
came
my
after a
God.
different girl in the post. He didn't even come after me. I was like, that's right. You sit down.
How dare you tell a man what we're saying about him on the internet?
Like, that's
That's any of his business.
not that it couldn't be a fake profile that a guy made, but it's also clear like one of the girls was trying to like buddy up to him by telling him what people said. I'm like, this guy gaslights everybody. Don't feed into this.
I
You'll be
love when
sorry.
girls like get together and they like that Facebook group is amazing.
Yeah, well, because like also anything I posted, it was like, I'm not being like, this guy sucks. I'm literally stating facts that happened. So like, you can't sue me.
Well, that's why I love
There's nothing you can come after
female
me for.
friendship. Like, I truly sometimes think that I was put on this earth and my soulmates are my friends.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I love Aelin and Lysandra, and I love Manon and the 13. Is it something that ACOTAR is missing? But then even on Wings of Blood, there's one friend she has that's a girl, but then it's like rivals and her bullies are women, and I hate that.
Yeah.
I'm like, aren't we past that? It's just like very outdated. Maybe it turns around and these people turn into her friends, but
Now look, some women are full bitches, and it's okay
no,
to not
they're
like them.
bitches.
We don't have to support everybody. But yeah, being in one of those groups it's nice that people are supporting each other and they're
Instead
like,
of
hey,
being like, you stole my man, like let's turn our hate onto that man.
well, because also like the point of that group is to be like, "Hey, my husband was in town visiting this weekend, and I have concerns. Did anybody see him?" Like, people are helping somebody out, but, like, some people get on there and they're just like, "This guy stopped talking to me." And, like, look, it's not great, but that doesn't make him shitty. It just means he was not that interested in you.
Yeah.
Sorry.
He just can't communicate.
All that to be said, I do love, like, the girls that are, like, sticking up for each other and trying to help each other out, but I don't know that this is really that big of an issue,
Mhm.
but I guess it's very difficult for Irene to process. And
Well,
then,
I
of
think
course,
it's not just difficult seeing it, it's difficult realizing how difficult it is. Does that make any sense? It's like, "Oh my god, why do I care so much?"
yeah, but then Kale's reaction doesn't help. Kale,
He,
like,
like,
he
grabs
grabs
them.
his sheet like a scandalized lady to cover his chest. I'm like, "What, your boobs? Like, come on." But, like, if you hadn't reacted guiltily, it wouldn't
That's
mean
true. It did
anything.
look good when he's like,
Yeah, like, "Oops." Like, what do you mean, "Oops"? Is there a problem here or
"Did he
not?
say ooh?"
No. I think he just kinda, like, panics, and Irene is just like, "Cool, great," turns around and walks out.
She sits on the sofa in the living room and she's doing her best Nezrin impression, but this bitch is bothered. She is not unbothered.
I mean, there's no way to play this cool because 'cause you're like, "Am I mad? Do I have a right to be mad?" She's probably, like, running through so many things in her head,
She's
like,
trying to disassociate and be like, I'm just a doctor. I'm here to heal."
"Nothing has happened here. There's no promises. I'm assuming nothing. What do you mean?" She grabs her bag from behind the desk. It's full of vials, oils, journals, and books from the library, including the Song of Beginning, which Kale hadn't even known that she'd stored there.
She left them there because, like Aelin, when she was poisoned with Gloriella, she can't think of a safer place than with Chaol,
Oh,
which is
that
very
is
sweet.
sweet.
And here he was, his boobs out, naked in bed.
Irene
Why
walks out.
was his shirt off?
I mean, a lot of people sleep with their shirts off. It's hot there, remember?
That's
This
true.
is hot AF. I mean, if I was Nezrin, I'd be like, "Is there a tank top available? You've seen these boobs before.
No,
I'm
you can't
hot."
sleep in a tank top because then one boob pops out the
That's
side.
awkward to walk in
And
on.
then
That's when it's
Irene
weird.
walks in and, and your tank top is askew.
You're like, "They normally look better than this. Please stop judging." Irene walks out to the garden, her hand curling around the note from Aelin in her pocket as Nezrin says a quick farewell to Kale and leaves.
Kale tells her it's not what she thinks, but Irene is just over, like, she's overcorrecting, like, "Oh, your dick is working. That's great news medically speaking. I don't care that she was in your bed. Why would I care?"
There's just so many overthinking moments in this scene that happen all at once. Then Kale sees the books, the scrolls, and their strange symbols, word marks.
Do we ever find out why people in EOA have such an affinity for word marks?
I do believe some of the people that settled there, like, way, way back in their history is discussed further
Well,
later in the
could they
books.
have been attacked? I know that there are people who lived in the southern continent, we will talk about in the future, who could be potentially the Fae that went to Midgard.
Mhm.
Could the people who were in the stone marshes, like there was a civilization or whatever, could they have something to do with the Asteri, and that's why Ilwe has that connection to the word marks?
Um, I have not, without giving spoilers or going too far into it, I do think to an extent those civilizations are discussed further and how they spread out, which is why the word marks or things related to that would have moved around with them, I believe. Irene shows Kale the illustrations inside the Song of Beginning, which feature three figures standing in front of a gate, and Kale tells her to hide it all right now.
So she puts this ancient scroll in his boot, and he's like, "I will be wearing the other boots today. Thanks." They just like they get very loud and robotic in case anyone is listening. Like, just a normal day. I'm just different pair of boots for me today. Thanks.
I mean, you never know.
But they do that, like this big production, but then they're also talking about the word marks in Erewhon and Orcus and Mantix again.
Like, I thought we were keeping that part quiet, but okay. Kale thought that the other two kings were sent back to their world or killed in the first war, but now that you mention it, I can't quite remember.
And Irene's like, that seems pretty important to know if they're just waiting on the other side of this gate for it to open. This seems like the kind of shit that Brandon should be telling people, right?
I mean, does Brandon even know that's
I
the
don't
harder
know.
part?
Yeah, I don't really know, but he would have been in the first war. He would at least know if the kings were dead.
Yeah. Well, there's so many moments where you're like, okay, I finally have Brandon or I finally have Elena to ask all my pertinent questions. And then you're like, what are my pertinent questions?
Yeah, what
What
are
do I
my
need to
questions again?
I'm unprepared. But also, why would this book with the 3 Vogue kings be here in Antica?
And in Ilway or Ilwayan?
I don't
Whatever you
know.
would call that language. There's also the scroll with the word marks, both found in the library where a healer who looked like Irene was murdered and books were stolen. Obviously, they need to visit the library as low key as possible because there are eyes and ears everywhere in the palace. But then there's also this like looming threat. There's clearly Vogue in the city somewhere. Kale reaches for the bit. Every time I have to say that, I'm like, but this isn't the best headspace to start a healing session. So Irene is like, I know what will help his mood. Tell me about your scars.
Obviously, scars put people in a good headspace. Like, come on. The scar on his face is courtesy of Aelin after Nehemia's murder, and he is not willing to talk about that yet. But he answers her question about the tiny scar at his temple.
Someone has daddy issues. Really, everyone in the Massverse has daddy issues. We knew Chaol's father, the Lord of Aniel, was an asshole, and that he threw him out when Chaol said he was going to trade in his title of heir for a castle guard name tag. We didn't know the specifics until now. Because he didn't want to talk about it, but I also don't know if Aelin or Nezrin really ever asked. Like, it kind of goes both ways. Chaol doesn't ask people about themselves, but not a lot of people ask Chaol either.
I think some of the problem is, like, there are things that they don't know to ask. Like, okay, you might be here now, but you might not have a great relationship with your dad because he's an asshole, but that doesn't mean
Did
that I
anyone
would have
ever
a
ask about that scar?
I don't know, like, if it's so small.
I
Also
notice everything. Anyone I've ever dated, I'm like, what's this?
but also if he's captain of the guard and he practices with
You would
weapons,
assume that, yeah.
at some
Okay.
point, like, he could have been scarred, like, in training. Like, I don't Aelin's
That's
covered in
true.
scars. Irene lays her hand over the mark, and Chaol is taken back to that snowy day in Aniel when his father literally threw him down the stairs of the keep while his mother screamed.
I'm can't help but picture Winterfell.
Yeah, it
Like
sounds
the
very
aesthetic.
cold and, like, barren?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in this flashback, we get a general idea of the setup in Aniel, like its proximity to the White Fangs, a dam that stops water flowing from the mountains. Like it's a little bit of setup for future events.
After his father throws him down the stairs and walks away, dragging his wife with him, Chaol sees his little brother Taryn hide in the
And this
shadows.
poor little boy is terrified, not just the trauma, like seeing your brother thrown out physically, but he's just been made heir of Aniel with no say, which is a little fucked up. Like, it's fucked up that Chaol would have to do it, but it's also for this little boy.
Any protection that he had from his father is now leaving him.
Mhm.
So I know that Chaol's thinking big picture to,
He
like,
does really leave his brother
yeah, take
behind.
care of Dorian, but, like, you just abandon your own flesh and blood.
Well, Dorian has so much guilt about Holland, but fuck that kid. This kid actually has some grievances.
Especially because this is a sweet child. This is a
Mhm.
sweet baby. Taryn does take a step forward to help Chaol.
It's a good thing that Chaol stops him because the guards who help Chaol by giving him supplies pay for it later. And sometimes I wonder why even give Dorian and Chaol siblings in this story because they don't really contribute much. But for Dorian, I guess that he had to keep going this entire time because the alternative was Holland. Like,
Yeah.
he couldn't totally run away because then he knew Holland would be the heir. So, I guess that it explains why he never ran off. And I guess for Taryn, it just, like, reinforces or validates how awful Kale's father is because he hates him too. Like, Taryn is the one that they say is, like, bookish or weak or whatever, and he hates his dad. So you're like, okay, it's not just Kale overreacting.
Yeah. Taryn is like a much softer, like, sweeter version of Chaol. Chaol learned years later that the men who helped him that day were fired in the middle of winter and their families were banished into the White
This is
Fangs.
so fucked up.
Only 2 of those families survived until summer, and after hearing this, Chaol sent a messenger with gold, but he never found them. The implication being that the entire families are dead because of this whole
Mhm.
situation, and that in his head is Chaol's fault.
And that's just more guilt for the Vogue to feed on, like what happened to Nehemia, Sorsha, Dorian, the slaves in Calicut and in Dovir. They rose up because of Nehemia's death, which Chaol, he really couldn't have stopped it, but in his head, he's like, if I had told someone about the threat, maybe Aelin could have stopped it. So it's like there's just so many things that are weighing down on him.
Like, some of that you can take the burden for, and some of it you're gonna have to let go
Definitely
of. It's
not
much bigger
Sorsha.
than you.
That
Yeah.
had nothing to do with you.
Well, even if Nehemia was gonna make this happen regardless, like, yes, you could have done things differently, and you've learned from that, but
Mhm.
some of that, like, what that meant down the line, you can't take on those
Yeah,
burdens.
Dorian being collared was not your fault.
Well, even, like, these guards that helped Kale, like, that was their choice to
Yeah.
help you. They know how brutal your father was. Like, it's awful, and you tried to help, but, like, it's not because like, anyway. I'm going down a whole tangent there. Kale opens himself up to the darkness, which shows him the horrors and Morath and hands, presumably belonging to Dorian, are torturing Kale's men.
And, like, we all knew that that was happening, but I think Kale had kind of, like, mentally blocked himself off from thinking about the fact that it's probably Dorian who tortured his men, and it was. Like, it
Yeah.
wasn't explicitly said, but we know that in Dorian's mind, he was, like, watching a young boy that or not a young boy, but, like, a young man kind of being, like, trying to get his attention of being like, "I know you."
Yeah. The
And
way
I
he
mean, it
talked about
was
it felt very much like Ress.
yes, exactly, and that's something that Kale's been trying really hard not to think about.
Well, it's like one of those, there's nothing you can do about it. Dorian knows and doesn't wanna, I mean, like, there's nothing you can do. It just feels
Mhm.
terrible, and I don't fault you for it. So, it just is something that just is there that Kale knows that I guess can haunt him. The darkness swells, then it's suddenly replaced by a memory. Not a memory of Kale's, but a childhood memory of Irene and her mother in their garden.
He opens his eyes and finds his foot pressing into the cushion. He feels it, but Irene is not beside him.
It's interesting that she was able to kinda, like, give him this and then, like,
Bounce.
separate herself. Yeah, because I expected her to be right by him still. He does find her crying in the garden, and I cried when I read this, or, like, it just I was listening to the Audible. It's so sweet.
Mhm.
Irene surprised herself with that memory. She thought that she'd forgotten what her mother looked like and what she sounded like. Can you imagine not having a picture to remember
I
somebody?
don't think that she ever actually forgot. I think helping Kale has helped her push past some of her own blocks, like ones that she might not even known that she put up. So
Yeah.
it's like she was probably some things, even if it's a good memory, it's painful to think about because you'll never have that again, or you're just like, when you think about your mother in general, you're sad. But there are happy memories, and this was a happy memory.
Gosh, you're so deep because in my mind, I'm just thinking, like, I have a terrible memory. So, like,
Now, I think that sometimes, even if it's like, if you don't want to think about something bad, you don't think about anything having to do with that person.
yeah.
So she probably has been trying not to think about her mom because when she does, she pictures her literally burning to
Yeah.
death. But there were all those happy memories before that.
Yeah, you don't want her to be forgotten, but she has to work past the losing of her mother before she can get to the other memories. She tells Kale about the day that her mother broke her oath to never take a life to give Irene time to run from the soldiers. Irene ran to her cousin's farm, and after 6 years, I mean, 6 years she's there trying to pretend she's normal, she walked through Oakwald Forest and over mountains for 6 months. That is
By
insane.
herself.
In order to reach Inish, where she ran out of money.
And that's where he met her in Assassin's Blade. Kale asks how she made it to Antica, not knowing the answer is Aelin. And when she says it's a long story, he says he has time, which is like a huge step for Kale. Like, he is genuinely asking about someone's experiences and he's going to stay awake to listen to them.
I know, like,
Wow.
I'm proud of Kale.
We're so proud of you, Kale.
These are big moves. He is
But,
trying.
like, he really wants to know, and I don't know if we've ever seen him really want to know anything about anyone.
It's so unfair for Nezrin because the
I
contrast is
know.
clear that, like, it's not like he doesn't respect Nezrin, he just the interest is
He
different.
asked and because he was feeling guilty, and then he fell asleep.
Yep. Irene tells him that she knows who gave him that wound.
So she's put it together, the old king was possessed, something that they had been hiding, not like, "I don't trust you," but they don't want people to question Dorian.
Yeah.
Like, the way that we're kinda confused about the timeline of the king's possession and Dorian's conception, like, other people would have questions about that as well. Like, what does that mean?
I mean, what does that mean? But also, is Dorian truly released from any Vogue presence? Like, there's
Right.
a lot of questions that could crop up. Has he been damaged by, like,
Mhm.
we don't even need to go down that route for people that don't know him. It doesn't scare Irene, though. If anything, she's even more motivated to fight it, to wipe away the last part of the king.
She explains that while she was trying to get to Kaol, the darkness showed her what Kaol was seeing. That would be so God, like he had a very like conscious memory. Like my dreams and thoughts are just so fragmented. You know, like if I knew someone could see that, oh, that's
They
just like a violation.
also, they'd be like, "Where did that come from?" Like, so many
Oh,
weird
the
things would pop
weirdest
up.
shit happens in my mind. But the only thing that she could think to do was tear through the bad memories with the good one. And the one of her mother makes it more symbolic because this is the memory of a woman the king destroyed. And that's what beat it back. This last part of the king.
I love that. Irene tells Kaol what happened with his father wasn't his fault and he deserved better.
And that's something Kale didn't even know he needed to hear, something that he's probably pushed so far down. He wasn't actively thinking about it all the time, but it still had a psychological impact. The Vogue were still feeding off of it because really in Kale's situation, the Vogue, they're ancient demons in this series, but to me they're more symbolic of like depression or like because your depression will feed off of your guilt and your shame and your repressed feelings and like those memories.
Mhm.
It's like the Babadook.
Well, like,
Now it's like a physical representation of your mental illness.
nothing that Kaol has done has ever been praised. Like, nobody has been like, "You were right to do this. You were okay to do this." He's only had his faults thrown in his face. So for
Mhm.
somebody to be like, "This is not your fault. This is not on you,"
And
I
you
think
deserve I think we all need someone to tell us you deserved better. And it's
yeah.
like, you know what? I did.
Especially if you already feel any kind of shame or guilt on your own and somebody else is mad and, like, plays on that, like, it's very refreshing, it's healing.
That's why I love having girlfriends. So you can be like, this is what happened. And they're like, that's fucked up. And you're like, that was fucked up.
Yeah, thank you, you're right, yeah. Irene smiles, a real smile, not like the one that she plastered on her face when she found Nezrin in Kael's bed.
Kale wishes that he'd been able to walk just so he could crawl for her. Like, this
Ooh.
is huge progress. Like, first of all, sexually speaking, love that. But this man has so much pride and he's willing to crawl for her.
Aw.
We haven't seen anything like that from Kale. It's very Reese kneeling for Farah after saying that he will bow before no one and nothing but his crown. Like, we love to see a man on his knees,
Yes.
but it's just, it means a lot more knowing how prideful these characters are.
Unlike the last time that Kale asked Irene to eat with him when she thought she could never with someone who represented not just Otterlin, but all of her anger and resentment and trauma, when Kale asks Irene to eat with him, she says
I'd
yes.
be like, "I have something you can eat."
When we switch to Nezrin's POV in chapter 24, she confirms what Kale suspected. She knows.
Nezrin is very perceptive.
I mean,
She's quiet, but
yeah.
she's paying really close attention.
Well, and again, she gives that unbothered vibe, and it's maybe she isn't bothered, maybe she is, but she also just it doesn't mean she's not paying
Mhm.
attention. She knows that it was guilt and not genuine interest, and that prompted him to talk to her last night.
But she's totally fine being the backup again because let's remember, first she was there for Chaos after that girl left him for Roland.
Mm.
Before we even, like before the first Throne of Glass book, we don't even know what happened to her. Her name was Lethane or something like that. I don't totally know. Then, of course, there was Aelin, after which Chaos went back to Nezrin again. And now there's clearly something going on with Irene. A fun little side note, in the original Queen of Glass, that woman's name that left for Chaol for Roland, that was Selena's cover name. And then it
Oh.
was changed to Lillian for Throne of Glass. I'm assuming because they were probably like, no one's going to be able to pronounce that.
Yeah, but also, like, let's not get these characters confused. Like,
Yeah.
we don't need to have there needs to be some separation between the two of them. I also appreciate that although Kale I mean, Nezrin has been kind of his backup, but fortunately, Nezrin didn't, like, drink the Kool-Aid. In her mind, she was always like, "I mean, I'm available," you know,
I think you mean the Flavor Aid.
the flavor, right? Like, Kale is fun and, like, this could be something, but she's, I don't think, been fully like, "Yes, now's my chance with Kale." You know, like
It's like they both want it to work because on paper it should. They have a lot of the same like values and thoughts and it's really just like proximity.
well, they clearly work well together, which
Mhm.
they did when they were saving people from the Vogue, but that doesn't
What is it
necessarily
called in
mean
Zodiac Academy when it's like they're more than friends? they're like you work really well together, like
You mean like
Nebula
they're Nebula
allies.
allies?
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
like Nebula
We're
allies.
clearly meant to be best friends.
Well, I'm also watching The Studio, I think that's what it's called,
Okay.
on Apple TV. It's Seth Rogen. It is so good because it's like kind of classic Hollywood. But in the first episode, Seth Rogen becomes the president of a studio. And they're like, your first movie has to be about Kool-Aid. And it's like one of those big budget, like terrible movies, but he's like a film nerd. So he
Uh-huh.
wants to make something better. So he goes to Martin Scorsese and is like wanting to pitch him something about Kool-Aid. And then he's like, well, I can do something about Jonestown and it can be called Kool-Aid. And it's like, it's
Wow.
very funny. And then they look it up and they're like, oh my God, it was Flavor Aid. I don't know. I think it's like I've only watched 2 or 3 episodes, but so far it's really funny.
See, I need to add that to my I have so many things. I did at least start Paradise. So
Oh yeah. Oh my
I'm
God. Did you
making
get to the
moves.
end of the first episode?
Yes.
Amazing.
To be honest, I also looked up, not spoilers.
Come on.
Okay, I didn't look up like everything, but I hate if it's going to take the entire season and things are out of context. Like I want to be more aware.
Hmm.
I don't always do that, but I
Did
did.
you I'm trying to think of what all you could have spoiled in that because there's a lot of twist.
Yeah, so like I didn't get in super deep. I know the overall premise. Like
Okay.
I mean, for anybody that hasn't watched it, I won't like.
I finished The Pit and I really recommend that too. It's PITT because they're in Pittsburgh.
Yeah,
It's really good.
I do know what you're talking about. Girl, I got to find some time in between all of
Don't
this.
eat while you're watching
Yeah,
because
that's okay.
it's a lot of medical stuff.
I did know that.
Like well, I always like my TV time is like I sit down with my meal on the couch like an adult and I like watch an episode of something.
Yeah,
And every time I would put on The Pit, I was like, oh God.
Got it. For obvious and understandable reasons, Nezrin is putting off returning to the suite after searching the city for signs of Vogue. She walks up to the area for a little quiet time.
And the area would be such a good place to cry or like scream. But Sartak finds her there, and when he hears that she went there for some alone time, he turns to leave, but she stops him.
Almost grabs him. Almost grabs a prince.
She doesn't mind Sartak's company, though. Being with him makes her feel less quiet, like less strange, less weird. And like that's what we're all looking for is like being around someone and being quiet around them doesn't make us feel weird. Like having comfortable silences.
I think the difference is that Sartak sees her.
Yes.
Sartak is making an effort to see her. You know, like Kale saw her, but like he didn't try to see her more.
Well, just because she's quiet doesn't mean she doesn't want you to ask about her day or to ask about herself.
Yeah, she just doesn't want to burden you with information unnecessarily, you know? Just show a little interest, damn it. She explains that she's a little overstimulated after too much family time, which Sartak can relate to.
But while Nezrin loves her family, Sartak's situation is different.
His family is Kadara and the Rukin.
How can you truly love the family you might have to kill one day? Like, you might have to kill. They might try to kill you if they take over as Coggin. You can't trust them, and you can't have love without trust, which seems especially relevant with Nezrin because she's wondering what's going on with Kale and Irene, and I don't think Kale would ever cheat. Like, that's not his personality. But can I trust that you really want to be with me? Or are you going to be with me out of pity or some misguided loyalty or honor?
Well, just like one book ago, when Kale would lash out at me because he's upset with his ex-girlfriend.
Right.
You know, I can already tell you don't know your own emotions very well, or like you're having emotions, but you're not like paying attention to them as they happen. So anything you say, I have to take with a grain of salt because I don't think you've thought it through.
Mm-hmm.
That's so frustrating for Nezrin.
Well, men will say that they're unemotional, like anger isn't an emotion. Okay.
Sartak asks Nezrin if she'd like to go with him to the mountains of the Rukin for a few weeks.
He's leaving soon, as in now. He's leaving right now.
Thanks for the heads up.
And she's thinking you were going to leave without saying goodbye, but he'd assumed that after last night's party, she'd be busy with Kale all day because he'd certainly take his time. What?
I mean,
What's
one,
happening?
I was sitting on the couch with you, and although we weren't like flirting, I was sitting on the couch with you. But
why did you go home with someone?
I know you're just assuming I'm with Kale now. Like, I mean, technically, I guess we could assume it, but that's the other thing. She and Kale have not shown anything to each other in public.
No.
So, like, maybe Irene is making these assumptions, but, like, where is Sartak getting that from?
I
Nezrin
guess
at no
he's
point
assuming that, like, in his mind, if any man is sharing
a suite
a
with a
suite,
woman.
yeah, or, like, share with Nezrin, like, he can't imagine being around Nezrin in that situation and not fucking her,
Oh,
you
yeah,
know? Which is very
especially
sexy.
it feels like I'd be taking all day.
Yes.
Like, Kale?
Who?
Who? She also has 1 hour to decide.
But she doesn't need an hour. She saw Chaos' toes flexing and curling last night, and she cried silent tears of joy. This makes me so sad. But she didn't tell him what she saw. She's reminded of another time that she cried when Kale told her, let's have an adventure. Like, he really sold this as them having an adventure together.
Respectfully, have we not, like, I mean, it's an adventure, but, like, I just after, like,
It's like Lord of the Rings. We're going on an adventure.
the very first time around with Kale and then with him, like, snapping at me and taking out his anger against Aelin on me, I would take him with a grain of salt. Like,
Yeah.
there's just a moment where I'm like, "Yeah, we can try that and, like, we could hook up, but I don't know if I'm just gonna give you my feelings because I
He
don't."
won't even hook up with her.
I know. So I'd be like, "We're on the fence here." Their paths led both of them to Antica, but that path is split. She's not gonna be a consolation prize for Kale anymore, and she's gonna have her own adventure.
Plus, it's not just like a fun little side trip, it's a full on side quest that could potentially lead to some information about the Vogue. Like, this could lead to the Rukin helping in the upcoming war.
I mean,
And
let's
she deserves to have like her own, like, so far, she's just been support for a character.
yeah,
She deserves to have like her own moment where she's like bringing something to the table on her own.
exactly. Like, let's set aside the fact that, like, the Rukin are legendary, and that's an amazing opportunity. Sartak, delicious. He's interested. I get to
Delicious.
sit between his thighs for how long? Like, okay, this is another great opportunity. But again, yeah, like, I can actually do something to help here. I'm gonna capitalize on this. This
Well,
isn't about, like, giving Chaos screen time. Like, this is for it's bigger than that. Like, yeah, let's do it.
back to panties.
Okay.
she she leaves and he's like, "Do you need to pack anything?" And she's like, "No." And he's like, "Oh, when we get there, you know, like, I'll find you panties or whatever." I would be so good. Like, you're not packing anything. I need my nose spray. I need my chapstick. I have like my pill box.
What
And
about
like,
my
you're not.
sunscreen? We're
What
gonna be
about
out in
my
the sun.
sunscreen?
There's a few things that I think I'm also like,
She's not taking. Do you know how many pairs of panties I take on vacation? I could piss myself 3 times a day and still have extra underwear.
that is great news. Also, same.
I
But
always take too much.
it's gonna be freezing in the skies all this time. Like, Sartak could have at least been like, you know what? Let me grab you like
A
another
cloak.
jacket before we go. Like,
It's just crazy to not take anything.
she
But
doesn't even
that's
know to
but
need to
she's like,
pack
"I
that.
don't have anything." She's like a cool girl, like, "Oh, no, I don't need to take anything."
But also, she doesn't want to like, take the time to like let anybody else on this plan. Like, when you like have like,
Yeah, because if she had to go back to the suite to pack, Kale would probably be like, first of all, you're interrupting them having a moment in your own suite." But you'd have
yeah,
to explain it to him.
if you're having a spontaneous moment, like, like, I don't want to take away from it by doing anything else that might distract me. Let's just go.
She could just run in, grab a handful of panties, and run back out without saying anything. And they're like, and Kale and Irene are crying in the garden.
You're like, where are you going? She takes nothing because, as she tells Sartak, she has nothing, and she leaves 2 notes for messengers to deliver.
The first to her family is full of love, the others to Kale. I have gone with Sartak to see the Rukin. I shall be gone 3 weeks. I hold you to no promises, and I will hold to none of my own. Ooh.
But also, it's like a not bitter way of just being like, I release you. Bye.
Yeah.
Like,
I release you and I release me, more importantly.
Yes. She takes the prince's extended hand, and once she's in the saddle, he whispers, I was praying to the eternal sky and all 36 gods that you'd say yes.
She smiles and says, so was I. I fucking love this.
Why are we
For
not grinding? I
Nezrin?
mean, like, for the poor
Grinding?
Kadara. Not grinding, but like, I'm in your lap. Okay, like, there's no boners, nothing.
That's like 3 days of grinding.
Okay, like, we don't have to do the whole time, but again, like, this is a very sexual position to be in, whether you want to
It
be or
is.
not. He's like up on you.
Well, and I don't blame Kale for what's developing with Irene, but I'm so glad that Nezrin has this opportunity to be someone's first choice. Like, we all deserve to be someone's first choice. None of us are consolation prizes.
But also things that are to come. Yeah, great Kale, but also there are things to Nezrin.
Yes.
So I love that for her.
Love that for her. Next week, we'll talk Empire of Storms, chapters 29 through 30, where we are finally going to get more Elite and Lorcan, and Tower of Dawn, chapters 25 through 30.
If y'all have time, help us find more book besties with ratings and reviews.
Thanks, y'all.